Picture a field in France, October 732 AD. The ground is wet, the air smells of horses and smoke. Two armies stand facing each other, and neither one knows they are about to decide the fate of the entire Western world. On one side, Charles Martel, his Frankish soldiers, tired, outnumbered, fighting on their own soil. On the other, Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi and the Umayyad army, battle-hardened, riding north from a Muslim Iberia they had already transformed into one of the most brilliant civilizations on earth. In our timeline, the Franks held. But what if they didn't? By 732, the Umayyad Caliphate was not just a military force. It was a civilization on the move. In less than 100 years, it had swept from the Arabian Peninsula, crossed North Africa, crossed the Strait of Gibraltar, and turned Iberia into Al-Andalus, a place of mosques, libraries, and markets that would have seemed miraculous to the rest of medieval Europe. And now, it was pushing north, into Gaul, toward the Frankish heartland. The man trying to stop it, Charles Martel, was not even a king. He was a duke, a military strongman holding a fractured kingdom together through sheer force of will. Abd al-Rahman had led his cavalry across the Pyrenees loaded with the spoils of Iberia. He wasn't just raiding, he was testing, probing, looking for the seam in Christian Europe where pressure would become collapse. And he found Tours. Charles met him on the road between Tours and Poitiers. He chose his ground carefully. Dense forest, narrow terrain, cavalry country turned into infantry country. For 6 days, the two armies circled each other. Then on the 7th day, the Franks charged. An Arab chronicler who witnessed it wrote, "The men of the north stood as motionless as a wall. They were like a belt of ice frozen together, and not one of them gave ground." That line held in reality. In our alternate history, it does not. The Umayyad cavalry finds the gap. The Frankish formation splinters. Charles Martel is cut off, and the gate to the heart of Christian Europe swings open. What happens next is not a lightning conquest. Empires don't move that fast. What happens instead is something far more dangerous than a fast takeover. It is a slow reshaping. First, the Frankish political world fractures. Charles Martel was the glue. Without his victory, the dukes and nobles of Gaul start calculating their own survival. Some negotiate, some flee north, some convert. Second, the cities start to change. Umayyad administrators move into Bordeaux, Lyon, eventually Paris. They bring trade networks, legal systems, scholars. The same transformation that happened in Iberia begins happening here. Third, the church loses its center of gravity. Without the Frankish state as its military backbone, the Pope is isolated. Rome becomes a distant voice, not a seat of power. And here is where the story becomes something much, much larger. Because without a strong Christian Frankish north, there is no Charlemagne. No Charlemagne, no Holy Roman Empire. The entire scaffolding of the Western world begins to shift. Remember the question we started with. One afternoon in France, one line that broke. Here is where all of that leads. The Crusades do not happen. The Crusades were born from a specific kind of Christian Europe, unified, militant, afraid. But in this timeline, there is no unified Christian West, no Pope with an army of kings behind him, no Council of Clermont, no, God wills it. The religious war that defined the medieval world simply never exists. The Renaissance starts differently. Islamic scholars had already preserved Greek philosophy, mathematics, and medicine. In this version, that knowledge moves directly into a Muslim-influenced Western Europe. Paris and Lyon become what Cordoba already was, cities of libraries and debate. The rebirth of learning begins earlier, and it speaks Arabic as much as Latin. And then, someone else reaches the Americas. This is the consequence no one sees coming. The Atlantic exploration of the 1400s was funded by Iberian Christian kingdoms, Portugal, Castile, Aragon. In this timeline, those kingdoms may not exist. The ships that leave the Atlantic coast fly a different flag, a different faith. The Americas are still found, but the world that follows is unrecognizable. One battle did not just defend France. It may have determined who invented the world you live in. So, would a Muslim victory at Tours have made Europe uniformly Islamic? No, history is never that clean. The North would have resisted, Scandinavia, Britain, the Rhine, centuries of friction. But the answer to the real question, would Western Europe have been fundamentally different? Yes, irrevocably. In its religion, its politics, its architecture, its languages, its relationship to knowledge, its relationship to power. We began this video standing in a muddy field in France, watching a battle that almost went the other way. Now you understand exactly what was standing on the other side of that field. Not just a Frankish army, the entire shape of the world you were born into. History did not have to look like this. Every cathedral, every nation-state, every war of religion that shaped your world, it all traces a line back to that October afternoon. One formation that held, one general who died in the fighting, one retreat south. Subscribe, because every week I go looking for the moments history almost chose a different door. One battle, one outcome, but in another corridor of time, the muezzin called from the towers of Paris, and no one thought it strange at all.